So welcome to the Writer's Mindset series. I'm Yvonne Redden and I'm going to be chatting to a variety of storytellers and writers to find out what inspires and motivates a writer. Is it a particular mindset that you can develop, or are writers born with this gift of storytelling? And my guest this week is the wonderful Emer Mc Lysaght. Thank you, Emer, for joining me.
Hi, Yvonne. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you're the co-writer. Emer's the co-writer of the What a Complete Aisling book series. And we all know these books. Everyone knows them now. And you're on book number 4 now as well, Emer.
Yeah, just getting ready for book number 4 to come out. I think it's the 8th of October. 7th of October, sometime or early October.
Brilliant. And I always love the titles of your books as well, because they're very funny. And this one is Aisling and the City, isn't it?
Aisling and the City, yes. So kind of inspired, very inspired by Sex and the City.
Oh,
so
God.
yeah,
and they're doing new episodes of Sex and the City now as well.
I know, yeah. Yeah, it's like they're doing marketing for us. Aisling does go to New York in this book. I actually have a proof of it here. It's not a secret that she goes to New York, because she literally has like a little brown bag and she's standing on an NYC sewer. So I must apologize, because my cat is definitely going to be, this is my cat's tail.
Emer and her cat. What's your cat's name, Emer?
Pip.
Great to have her. Why not? You look, this is all part of live Zooming, isn't it?
Pip just cannot understand when I'm talking that I'm not talking to her, or like boosting her ego in some way. So she was over there asleep, and then she was like, oh, she's speaking, she's obviously talking to me, I better go over and see what she's talking about.
She can join us. Sure, 3 is great. Isn't it nice to have 3 people here? And
yeah.
In the series, Emer, I just bring in the questions. I bring in the 5 W's of writing. So I use the 5 W's. I just find it's a nice format. So I think I'll just start with the first one. And who has been influential in your writing career? I know Sarah Breen has, of course.
Of course. Yeah, I couldn't do it without Sarah, obviously. My writing career, well, I guess if I'm thinking about my writing career, like my professional career, writing career, as in writing books, is actually quite short. Like the first Aisling book only came out in 2017. And that was the first book Sarah and I had. I'd never written a book before. I'd never really done fiction writing since I was in school, maybe, or maybe a little bit in college, but it wasn't something that I was very practiced in. I suppose when I was younger, you know the way you're good at English, or you're a great writer, or maybe you'll write a book someday. There was a bit of that.
Yeah.
In terms of inspiration professionally, definitely more like as in my late teens, going into my 20s, Irish writers like Maeve Binchy, Marion Keyes, like they would have been 2 of my major inspirations. I just loved their books. Like I've always read quite widely, I would say, but like those type of books would very much be the ones I would go back to again and again. I don't know if you're a person who reads books over and over again.
I try to. With 3 children, that's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, there's so many books to read, but even I'm like in the middle of a book now, and I'm like, I kind of want to go back and read a book I read a few months ago that I really liked, but I have so many other books to read. But anyway, I would go back and read the likes of Rachel's Holiday or Last Chance Saloon from Marion.
And she's writing a sequel to Rachel's Holiday. Oh my God, I can't believe I loved that. And I loved Watermelon and all as well. I loved them.
Yeah, like I never thought of I was never really aware, never thought about different genres of fiction really when I was always an avid reader, but I never would have thought really of like commercial fiction or chick lit as it's sometimes called or whatever. So I never really, I just thought they were brilliant books. I never really thought about who they were for, who they were supposed to be for or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the Aisling character came from your time in college with Sarah, was it?
Yeah. So Sarah and I became really good friends in college, and then we lived together in various flats kind of over the years. Yeah. And Aisling character, we just came up from messing, really. Yeah. We're both country girls. We're both from very small villages, and we both just knew this type of girl a lot. Like some of her was us, you know, and we'd tag each other, and you do this and you do that. And then it was just an amalgamation of loads of different characteristics into this one particular girl, who we knew loads of. There's the cat again.
But we don't even need to say that she's a country girl. It can be in relation to anybody, really. A city girl or a country girl.
Anyone, yeah. And we've had people say, but I'm not from the country and I really relate to Aisling, or I'm English or I'm American and I relate. And it's like, well, yeah, I think it's just for a lot of women a life stage. It's part
She's a
of growing up.
relatable character though, and now, as you progressed with the book 4 now, I think people are growing up with her as well. You know, it's hard to believe it's only 2017 that you released the first one, isn't it?
First book,
It's been a whirlwind. And you started it off on like a Facebook or something, didn't you? Did you?
Yeah, so me and Sarah came up with Aisling, the character, and then this was back in, I want to say 2008, sometime like that, maybe even earlier actually. And back then in the Stone Age, there was no like WhatsApp groups, or group messaging just wasn't really a thing. Like you wouldn't really be in a group, you know, you wouldn't be texting a group of people, maybe an email chain, but we wanted to keep all of these Aishlingisms, as we called them. And I was like, I feel like the only way to do it is to set up like a Facebook group. And then any of our friends, at this stage it was only a few friends who were like into the concept of Aisling, and we were like, any of our friends that want to join in can just join the group, and then, you know, it'll be a bit of fun for a few weeks or whatever. But it just grew and grew and grew, and I think the group maxed out eventually at about 40,000 members. We actually closed it to new members a couple of years ago because it was just becoming too unwieldy, and there was people joining who weren't doing it in the spirit of Aisling. They were just people who like to join Facebook groups.
40,000 members, wow.
I mean, it could be up, I'd say we could easily have had up to, you know, 80, 90, 100,000, but we just kept it fairly small. And Facebook has kind of died off a bit now. It's not as popular. So the group is.
When did you come to the point where you thought, right, I think we need to do something more with Aisling. We need to get her into a book, or you know, to go a little bit step further?
We had thought about that a few times, and we'd been approached a couple of times over the years, like, would you think about doing a TV show? And a producer had come to us, and, you know, RT were interested for a while in doing a TV show. This was back in like 2010 maybe. But nothing really ever came of that. Sarah lived in America for a few years when she had her first daughter, so that was 8 years ago. So she was there for a few years, so we were, you know, doing a lot of communicating. I went over to see her a few times, but we couldn't really do anything at that time together because Sarah wasn't in the country.
Has to be right timing, doesn't it, Emer?
Yeah, and eventually the timing was right. Conor Nagel, who was a guy I kind of knew vaguely enough just from working, like, I'm a journalist, Sarah had been in magazines, so I knew Conor Nagel just kind of to say hello to him, had worked with him a bit, but he had moved to Gill Books, and he got in touch and said, hey, it's Conor. I really think there's something in this Aisling character. Would you be interested in maybe thinking about a book? Sarah, we talked about it. We were like, we have always wanted to do something with Aisling, but we didn't know what it was. And it did feel like the time was right. And we went back to Conor and said, okay, we'll do a book, but we want to do a novel. We don't just want to do like a collection of funny, you know, observations about Aisling or whatever. And he was very open-minded, and he said, okay, well, will you write me up like, you know, a synopsis, a 1-page synopsis? And me and Sarah went, oh no. So we had to go away, and true to form, we left it to the night before. He was like, can you have it to me by, say, you know, 20th of June, and 19th of June, we were in a pub together.
Oh, so 11:30 p.m. or something.
Exactly, trying to write this. I mean, we put a bit of a, like, you know, beginning, middle and end. What's Aisling's big challenge? John doesn't want to get married. So she moves to Dublin and, you know, finds this new lease of life. So that was the book.
Begin. So Conor would have been a big influential in your writing career as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Conor was very influential. Other writers, like, we were kind of catapulted into the writers community in Ireland, which is an amazing community, really strong, really close. But like, we felt for a while like we didn't really belong there because we hadn't been like working towards it for years, or and the first book was such a success, like an unusual success. Nobody was expecting it.
Nobody saw it coming, really, did they?
No, we felt really taken under so many people's wings. So like our hero, Marion Keyes, who genuinely, we used to share her books and loan them to each other like 10, 15 years previously. She was so supportive. People like Sinead Gleeson, Sarah Maria Griffin, like I could name them all day. But they were so supportive. And then some broadcasters and some people who had, like, I remember Brendan O'Connor was the first, that was our first big interview that we did, was Brendan O'Connor was sitting in for Marion Finucane when she was still with us and still presenting on RT. And he was so kind and generous. We were like, well, he won't have read the book, like he won't be interested. And he had read the book, and it was just really surprising. Like, people are so kind and nice and like really
there's a
want to
lovely
give
supportive world out there, isn't there, really?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And like, do you find you just like your genre of writing? I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to distinguish what it is. I know you were just talking about it there a minute ago. I suppose
Yeah.
it's comedy writing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of it's commercial fiction probably
Yeah.
would be the kind of bigger, you know, and I think that is what people would often, I think it used to kind of be called chick lit. So
Yeah.
commercial fiction is usually for women. It's usually intended for a big audience, and it can't, like comedy, romance, that kind of thing is usually. But as I said, this is kind of embarrassing, but even though I've been even though I've been a reader all my life and I've always read different types of things, I never really thought about the different, like, apart from like, oh, that's a horror book, or that's a romance book, or that's a funny book. That kind of would have been the depths of my thinking about genres of writing.
Yeah.
And then people were coming out with this literary fiction and commercial literary and and I was just like, I don't know what any of that means. Like, I genuinely didn't know. I remember having a conversation and someone started talking to me about literary fiction.
Yeah.
And I was just like nodding along, going like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, what
all these titles. I mean, do they really need a title? It doesn't matter once people can relate to it.
I was like, I suppose that maybe means like the classics. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just had never.
It sounds better than chick lit though as well, doesn't it? I hate that word.
I never studied English literature. I'd never taken a creative writing class. So I just had never thought about these different genres. So, I mean, Aisling does kind of fall naturally into the commercial fiction genre because, I mean, there are some assumptions made about the books, like they're for women and that they're light and fluffy and that they're an easy read. And I mean, they are all of those things in some ways, but I remember when the first couple of books came out and there was a couple of more academic pieces written about them, and it was really, really nice to see because it was along the lines of like, these books are quite culturally important, or, you know, they represent a segment of Irish society in 2018 that we haven't seen maybe, or so that was kind of gratifying. But the genre is commercial fiction. I mean, I think if you were to ask a bookseller, that's what they would say it is. Yeah.
I think it was a really important time, wasn't it? Like, I mean, all the like country people coming up and living in Dublin. I mean, like we see Normal People was another really moving movie, wasn't it? Like about him moving up and how difficult that transition must have been. So
I know.
I think it's usually more important than you think. Yeah.
And I mean, we were just writing stuff we knew. I mean, moving up to Dublin for the first time, and you know, issues that were affecting Irish women at that time, and we've carried that on through the rest of the books as well. Yeah.
And John, there's a lot of Irish men that don't want to get married and just string the girls along as well. So there's loads of Johns in Ireland.
Yeah, or like they're good men, but they're just
afraid of commitment. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of Aisling's I hate to say she has flaws, but she does, and I think she at the start is quite tunnel vision in her, like, well, you know, I've got the boyfriend, I got the job, now it's time to get the ring, get this and get the baby. And I mean, that's fine. Loads of people, I mean, that's fine. Loads of people do that, but their lives are still rich and full of, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, for a character like Aisling, we have to kind of narrow it down to like, they were her ultimate goals.
Yeah.
She needed to broaden her horizons a bit.
The mortgage and everything next. I think it's just a framework that Irish people, it's kind of drummed into them from a young age that you need to do all these things.
Yeah, and it was something I never identified.
I never did either. I never did either.
Country, you know, I just never really got it. I still don't.
I'm the same. I just kind of a bit of a wanderlust spirit in me as well, Emer.
Yeah.
Is there and I'm going on to another W, which is where? Is there a location that you like to write, Emer, or can you kind of write anywhere?
I wouldn't say anywhere, but my style of writing tends to be leave it to the last minute and then have to do it all at the last minute. So wherever I'm
working for you though, Emer.
Yeah. Wherever I am at the last minute, that's the best place for me to do the writing. I mean, I like to be maybe at a desk. I've never done like a writer's retreat or anything like that. And I know people do go away and like write feverishly for a week in a cabin in the woods. So I'm like, I feel like I'd be too distracted.
Oh, I'd love it. I would love that. I would love
to give it a go, a real go, like not just, you know. But yeah, I write at my desk. I like to move to the couch sometimes if the desk is getting boring, then back to the desk.
Yeah.
I've written bits of Aisling books in libraries across Dublin, you know, when I needed Wi-Fi or I needed quiet or I needed this or that.
So whatever was necessary to write, I suppose, is what you did, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have an office, a dedicated office. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so and just wherever. So I don't really have a dedicated space. But
and do you think is there a better time for you to write? Like, do you like to do it in the morning or at night time?
Again, because of my leave it to the last minute procrastination, I would say nighttime is probably like that's when I've done my most quantitative work. So like I can. Sarah's always astounded at how much I can produce, like in the wee smaller.
You're a crammer.
I am a crammer, and like I remember doing my master's thesis, and like I did it in a week.
Oh my god!
I remember staying up to the night before it was due, and I finished early enough, like 2 a.m. or something, and I was like, "This is great. This is early."
Have the rest of the night now to sleep.
And you know what? I did very well in it, so the cramming does work for me.
I know. When I was in college, I couldn't get over the way that I was 20 years older than the students. I went back as a mature student, and I couldn't get over how they'd stay up all night. I'd be like, I'd be planning it from September to December. I'm a real planner, and I was like, how do you do it? I just don't know how you do it. But
I do. I would say either the morning or the night.
Yeah.
Mostly that's only because I paint myself into a corner and I have to do it at night. But I mean, sometimes I have to do stuff in the morning. Like I write a column for the Irish Times and it's due on a Friday at midday. And I always say I'll get it done. I'll get it finished on Thursday. Then I don't have to be worried about it on Friday. Without fail, every time. I do try and start it earlier in the week so I don't have to do it all on Friday morning.
Yeah.
Without fail, on Friday morning, I'm up finishing it in my pajamas.
Yeah. It works for you.
But it's never late. It's never late.
There you go. But then that's it. It works. And the other W is why. Why do you write yourself? And do you think that you need a certain type of mindset to write, or is it something just naturally that comes to people, to writers?
I think as my professional writing career has developed, and particular writing fiction, so I have been a journalist for many years and like wrote various things for like newspapers and online and whatever. But as a fiction writer, when I started, I felt like a bit of a fraud because it's like, I don't have that compulsion to write. Like, I'm not one of these people who's like, I just get up and it just pours out of me. And, you know, I'm just going to write until I get a book deal. And, you know, even if it's never published, I just have to write. I've never really been like that. And a lot of people are, or they talk about being like that. And I feel like a bit of a fraud. But I found as I've gone on, I'm still not like that. Like, I'm not like, oh, it's pouring out of me. But I have started to identify things that I want to write about. I remember reading somewhere, and I can't remember where it was. I think I was thinking about writing outside of Aisling, and I was thinking maybe I'll write a bit of flash fiction. That doesn't seem like too much work, but it's also quite creative.
Yeah.
People go off and write 6,000 words just for the crack. I'm just like, I could never, unless someone's breathing down my neck. I couldn't. But I went off and did a bit of flash fiction, and then I was like, you know, what do you write about? What do you pick out of thin air to write about? And whatever I found said, write about something you want to know the answer to. Whether it's something that's like in your own head, like how do I feel about this topic or this,
or you can't find the answers to,
or you can't find the answers. And that has really stuck with me, and I found that kind of influencing me even in like writing kind of funny columns or whatever. I'm like, I want to interrogate how I really feel about this thing, or what I think about this thing. So I find as I'm going on, that's the mindset I find myself in quite a lot.
But if you're thinking that, I'm sure there's other people thinking the same thing as well. So it's always going to be a value, isn't it?
Hopefully, yeah.
Of course. And there's always things to write. I think every day you wake up and there's always something to write about, isn't there? There's always things going on. Yeah. And I know you're a journalist, and you know about the 5 W's, and there is a H in there as well, which is a how. So I have to throw in this question. How do you write simultaneously with Sarah? How do you do it? This is something Jules Call told me, that you write together. So how do you do it together? Like, is it double Zoom? How do you do it?
So when we got our book deal back, so it would have been 2016 maybe. And and there's two of us. So the two of us were going to write the book.
Yeah.
Neither of us had ever written a book before or written anything. Like Sarah's the same as me. You know, she had the same kind of writing background as me. So we basically invented a way to do it together. I know there are some other people who write books together, but we didn't, like, I don't know how they do it, but we just decided. So we don't sit down beside each other and write. We write bits. So we, you know, when we started our very first book, we kind of plotted out what was going to happen in the first few chapters. Like, it was very kind of, as with all our books, it's very kind of open-ended at the start. We have a vague idea what's going to happen, and it never ends up like that. But anyway, so we were like, okay, it's not going to work if we're sitting beside each other typing out each word and like talking like all night. So we decided we'd write a chapter each. We flipped a coin to see who had to write the first chapter and who had to write the second chapter. She lost, so she had to write the first one. So what we did is we said we'd go away, we'd write our chapter, we'd send them to each other, and then we'd meet up again a few days later and say, okay, I liked that, and this is what I think should happen next. And that's kind of the way it's been ever since. Now we do it might be a few chapters at a time now, or you know, I might be halfway through a chapter and I'll send Sarah a text or a voice note and just be like, just to let you know, I've decided X character is going to do this, just in case that impacts you. What chapters on. And then the whole document comes together, and obviously it's full of holes and mistakes, and you know, people doing things on different days, and people have different names, and then we'll go through it all. You know, we'll each go through it and fix all our bits. Then we'll send it off to an editor. They come back, and then we split it in half, edit it, and then it'll go back. It'll come back to us again, and then we split it in half again, but we do the opposite ends. So we're always seeing, our eyes are always on all of the book at some stage. So we feel like we're not missing the part that we did.
And obviously you're in tune with the characters so well together. I mean, you'd have to be, wouldn't you really?
We both end up rewriting a lot of each other's work, not because it's not good, but because the story has changed, or it doesn't make sense, or we've decided to add in a new thread in someone's life or something. And I'm not joking when I say, usually, like, I'd say if I open this now, unless it's like a very particular storyline, I'd probably be hard pushed to remember who wrote which bit. Because one of Sarah's favorite stories is we were editing one of the books one time, and I had written like a big lol, like laugh out loud, beside something, because I found it so funny. I want to congratulate Sarah on being so funny. And I was like, oh my God, I have a huge lol written here. And she was like, Emer, you wrote that. Fond of yourself, you wrote that.
That's gas. Because like, you have to become the one person nearly to write it, isn't it? Like with the Aisling, you have to become the one voice.
Sarah's like me, leave everything to the last minute. We don't have time to be arsing around, like making it complicated. So
just get it done. How many more do you think Aisling books can you get in there? Can you know, kind of go on and on?
We decided that the 5th one will be the last one. So one more after this. Just we don't want to drag the arse out of it. We don't want people to get sick of it. We want just a nice tidy number, and we feel like we know what's going to happen at the end of the last book, and you know, people can use their imaginations after that.
Exactly. And then I suppose then it's the movie deal, isn't it, Emer?
It's actually a TV show that we're writing. It was originally we sold the rights and a movie. We did write a screenplay, and then the pandemic happened, and you know, it was kind of put on the back burner. And then Element Pictures, who we work with, said, we actually have been thinking about it, and we think Aisling would actually work better on TV. And we went and looked at it again, and they're dead right. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is exciting. Yeah.
So she continues on.
Yeah.
And is there any advice that you'd give to new emerging writers when they're watching this, that you wish someone had told you along your career?
Let me think. Like, I know I may have made it sound there that like me and Sarah just were dropped into this, you know, literary world, and Jesus, someone came up to us on the street. Like, we have both been working and grafting for a long time in writing, but just not writing books. I feel like every bit of experience you get in writing adds to your overall, you know, how accomplished you are, how confident you are. It doesn't have to be, you know, an award-winning short story that gets published in a literary magazine, or it doesn't have to be a book deal. Like, sure, be working away on your creative writing and try and write. I mean, the advice that people always say is just try and write a bit every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I find I do because I have a few other jobs that involve writing. But I feel like all the jobs I've done that have involved writing have improved it. So don't be disheartened if you're like not knocking out a novel and getting it published right away. Look for other jobs that involve writing. They're going to use your creative skills, like copywriting, journalism. Doesn't have to be hard news if you're not into that.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff out there that's going to involve
areas to go into, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's about connecting with people who write as well, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And then read as much as you can. Yeah. Obviously, I think people who get into writing do read a lot, but my reading had really fallen off the scale when I started writing, and to my detriment. And I've picked back up with my reading a lot. But
yeah, I know. I bought loads of books in the pandemic. I have them beside my bed, and I'm going to ask you that the next question. Can you name 3 books that you're reading at the moment, or trying to read, that are beside your bedside table or something?
Yes, I just finished, oh my God, I forget the name of it now. Did You Hear Mammy Died? Which is by Seamus O'Reilly. It only came out a few weeks ago.
I've heard of it, yeah.
His memoir of growing up in Derry, and his mother died. He's one of 10 children, I think, or 11 children maybe. His mother died when he was quite young. And he writes to The Guardian. He writes kind of a parenting column or a dad column in The Guardian. It's really good.
Yeah.
The book is so funny. I spent a lot of time in the north as a child because my grandmother was from there. So I spent a lot of summers and stuff. So I felt I could identify with some of it. Really touching, really funny, really, really good. Like I really enjoyed it. So that's one I've just finished, and it is beside my bed. On my Kindle that I'm about halfway through is Sorrow and Bliss. And I cannot remember who wrote it. I saw a tweet or something in a magazine that it was going to be one of the big books of the summer or something.
Yeah.
And it's about a woman with mental illness, and which I'm kind of interested in. And I think she has bipolar disorder, but I haven't actually got to that bit yet.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who has bipolar, and I just was interested in reading it, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Sorrow and Bliss, I cannot remember who wrote it. I'm so sorry. And then third one, I just bought one today that I'm planning on reading, and it's Andrea Mara's new one. I'm gonna have to look. Sorry, now I'm gonna have to look at because I bought it on Kindle. Andrea Mara, who's an Irish writer, has a new thriller out, and I just haven't read that many thrillers. Not because I don't like them. I just have never. I don't know. I just have never picked them up. But Sarah reads loads of them.
There's so many good Irish crime writers. I mean, even like Sam Blake and Michelle Dunn is Michelle Dunn was on the Writer's Mindset a couple of weeks, a few episodes ago, and she's written one. And then
Catherine Howard is getting great praise for.
Catherine Howard, I think she's on Ryan Tuberty tomorrow morning talking about her new book.
56 Days. So Sarah's going to let that. And I bought Andrea Mara's new one. I'm just looking at my email receipts. All Her Fault is what it's called.
Yeah.
And Sarah loved it, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. So.
There's so many new lovely Irish.
Did you hear Mammy Died? Yeah. Did you hear Mammy Died?
Okay.
Brilliant. Sorrow and Bliss. I can't remember who wrote it, but Google it. And then All Her Fault by Andrea Mara.
Thank you. That's brilliant, Emer. Thank you so much. And where can people find you? I know you're on Instagram. Are you on any other platform?
Instagram and Twitter really are the only ones I use. I have TikTok, but I only use it to watch like cat videos and things. I don't post anything. So I'm Emer the Screamer. So it's EMER the Screamer. Rhymes on both Instagram and
you haven't done any cat videos on TikTok yet, have you?
No, poor Pip. I don't know. She doesn't know she has the temperament for it.
She's not ready for it yet.
No, she doesn't need it.
Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And for chatting. And if anyone would like to contact me, this will be on YouTube, or I'm across most platforms on social media. And see you next time on The Writer's Mindset. And thank you again, Emer. Thank you so much. Good luck with your book.
Bye.
Thank you.